So that's the template for what I'm about to show you next and last. So finally we have, just make sure that, get that on screen and everybody can see it. We have a developed model on the basis of consequentiality and the process of reflective resonance. When creating this reflective resonance and the coincidental convergence as a result thereof, we can actually map out society following these steps. So we can see what the motivation and intention of a society was, is, or will be, depending on how closely we analyze and how accurate we are in our fundamental predictions. So, for motivation, rationale, intention, and coincidental conversion, we break it down into circumstance, situation, event, occurrence, or coincidence, coordination, actuation, center, and manifestation or consequence. For the determinants of a society, we have materials, peoples, accesses, culture, and politics. We have chance and change as ethnicity and nationality, which is exposure and existing. So ethnicity is formed of what we're exposed to when we're young, when we're developing, in our surroundings, in the nature that gives us life. And nationality is what is existing upon that experience. The coordinates are institutions, medicine or therapy, corporations, welfare or society in general, and establishments. For comparison and contrastation, we have community and finally humanity. So just to compare the two, I'll try and fit both into the frame. So kind of have to do this like a mirror. And there we go. So you'll see there is an overlap between things like absences and culture, or culture has been placed where absences are. And the reason why is because they're kind of interchangeable, absences and presence. And peoples and culture have been interchangeable but aren't exactly the same thing. When we have conflict, we have peoples from either different places or different belief structures. When we don't have culture, it's because there's either been a melding of people from different places, different ideas, advantages, perspectives, or vice versa, where we have the presence of a culture that's unwelcome. In turn, we have peoples that are missing from a culture. In a lot of cases, that's actually the indigenous population. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of struggle in the world with things like purgation. Genocidal expurgation, I believe, is the actual full term, which is awful that we have that in our language. However, it's important to recognize that both good and bad exist in the world. We have black and white. But we can exist in a gray area, and it doesn't have to be a bad gray area. It doesn't have to be a fringe. We don't have to be fanatics on one hand or radicals on the other. We can exist in harmony together. When we're looking at the basis of a society and its success, sometimes we look at monetary wealth. Sometimes we look at expansion of territory. Sometimes we look at, often we look back at what they did wrong. When we look to the greater picture, we see that successful societies help and sustain other societies to grow independently. We see that people are treated as equals, and people are not ignored or marginalized or defined as something that they are not. And last but not least is respect for those closest to the land, that earth that sustains our physical body, and those connected in that same way to the spiritual realm. So that interconnection, those 2 points coming together of spiritual and physical, are of vital importance, and we should recognize that both those that work in rigid, sort of basic workplace type environments are as important as the extremely evolved people who think beyond this time and place. We can't have one without the other. Every individual in a given society, every idea, every person, every place, every animal, every method, all these things matter. With this model, we can examine societies in such a way that we can break down the core elements and determine what was missing in that society so that we observe our past history and know where we're going in the future. With that, we live in the moment. It's not often that easy to make a wise decision. It's easy to make a choice, but choices have consequences. So when making a choice, we can better do it by fully understanding from where we've come to where we should or could or may go, and use that in this time and place to make our lives and the lives of others that much better, that much more fulfilling, and that much more full of well-being. Thanks for listening, and be well, stay safe, and take care. Much love.